So, good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are under the planet. We welcome you to this training, the hands-on on Python programming. So today we'll continue from where we stopped on introduction. So I'd like to call Dr. Adegoke Taiwo. Over to you, sir.
So, good evening, Dr. Oke. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome, sir.
So, let me share my screen. So, I believe everyone can see my screen. So, this is the second day of Python training, and we stopped at if statement yesterday, and today we will continue from where we stopped. So, the first thing is to launch our Anaconda. And as I've stated yesterday, the best way to do that is by using prompts. That is by using prompts. So we use Anaconda prompt. Anaconda prompt. So we locate Anaconda prompt on our system, and we can launch our Anaconda from that place, which is the fastest way to launch it, our Jupyter Notebook. So just overview of what if statement is used for whenever we want to make we want to take a decision, whether yes or no, and we can have one decision to make, we can have two decisions to make, we can have three decisions to make, and we can have many decisions to make. So that is why we have if statement for one decision, and if else statement for the two decision, and we have if elif else. So we can have this particular block of code, we have three decisions to make, and using if elif, and that means we have multiple decisions to make. So let me now launch my Jupyter Notebook. So the best way is to type Jupyter Notebook from your Anaconda prompt, and this will automatically open your browser, your default browser. So what I have typed here is Python notes. So that is why we have error. So this is an error message because there is nothing like Python notes in the Jupyter. So once you have this, you should know that, okay, there is something wrong with what you have typed. So you need to type in the correct words. So I've typed in my Jupyter Notebook. So, and I will wait for it to open the Jupyter Notebook for us. So yesterday we looked at a specific code where we use if statement to we take in a particular value, and from that particular value we want to know if the person can have access to the party, and this is based on the condition that the person is more than 18 years of age. So that is the if statement. That is, if the person is more than 18, the person is allowed to come into this to come in for the to the party. But if our if else statement, that means we have another statement that tells the user that is less than 18 that, okay, you cannot have access to this particular party. So I'm trying to get my Jupyter running. So this is the flow chart. The flow chart is this condition that the person, if the person is more than 18, it will it will run this particular code. But if the person is not more than 18, nothing is done, and no decisions will be taken. So, but for if-else statement, as I said, you will start with if. With your expression, this expression is the condition you want this system or computer to put into consideration, followed by a column. If you fail to put this column, the code will not run. Also, you need to take note of this, that between if and your statement, there is a kind of space. This space is called indentation. So it's telling the system that everything under this if statement should be run, else do nothing. So when we have two conditions yes, I think it's coming up. So when we have two conditions to be taken, this is how the flowchart looks like: yes and no. So if your condition is that, okay, I am more than 18 years, it will execute this particular set of code. And if it is no, it will execute this particular set of code. For example, suppose you want to log into your email address. The Gmail, for example, will ask you for username and password. Once you type in your username and password, the next thing the system will check is to check if your username and password, if they are correct. So if they are correct, it will log in your email. It will log in your email. It will pop up your email box, and you'll be able to do some certain things. But if your username or password are not correct, you will see that is why we have no. So at that particular point, the system will flag that your password is not correct. Then your code, the programs continues at this particular point. So why is this Jupyter Notebook not running on time? So let's move on. So for if else statement, which we considered also yesterday, we can see that we have if, expression, column. So the set of statements under this if, there is indentation. There is indentation before we have else column, else statements, which we have this statement and the rest of the code. So for us to have the rest of the code must fall directly under our if and under our else statement. If not, there will be a kind of issues. So I think we are getting that to that point. So then we have multiple if statements, as we looked at today. That is the text expressions, yes, statement 1. If no, then it will check the second condition, statement 2. If your second statement is not fulfilled, you check the third expression, statement 3. Then that is when we have if elif statement with this. This is the syntax, as we have saw. This is the syntax for if elif statement. So today we are going to continue from there. So let me increase that. Yesterday, the first thing I told you is to identify a working directory. For me, my working directory is on the desktop. So I will open my working directory. Then on my desktop, the folder I want to work with is my Python class, so which I have access to. Now, this is what I have access to. And yesterday, we made use of Python class 1. And if you don't have access to this particular code, this evening I've posted it on our WhatsApp group, so you can get that also, or you can have access to that from using the link I have also provided there. So, and yesterday we talked generally about Jupyter Notebook, basically all these features of file, edit, view, insert new cells. We talk about cells, copying of cells, cutting of cells, moving in between the cells. We talked about that. We talked about kernel, and we talked about all these features that allows us to navigate through the Jupyter Notebook easily. So I'm still waiting for my kernel, for my this thing to open. So here's my Jupyter notebook. that we used yesterday, where we talk about first line of code, we talk about variable declaration, we talked about comments, we talked about naming of variables, we talked about types of variables yesterday, where we talk about integer, floats, string, we talk about data conversion, and we talk about operations in Python, which is the same thing mathematically. We talk about and not equals to, and all the rest. We have the logical operators, which we regarded as and the or and not symbol. And we have the assignment statement, which we also considered yesterday. So yesterday we considered this if statement, and today we will still consider, we will continue this particular code. So yesterday we stopped at if else statement. Today we are going to look at elif. Elif allows us to have multiple statements, multiple conditions to be to carried out. So for example, let's say we want to write a code to determine the grade of a student. We all know that we need to know the grade of the student, which is test. Let me call the test. Test, let's call it 20. Exam, let's call our exam 50. And the total score is test plus exam. So we are all aware that the grading system starts from A, B, C, D, up to F. So that is where we are going to use our if statement. For example, we can say if, open a parenthesis, total, which is this total score, is greater than or equals to 70. Now, this particular statement here is called the conditional statement. So I want to add a logical statement. And this and statement, total, our total must be less than or equals to 100. Now, do something. We need to put a column. And the indentation is here. Print grade. So because grade is a string, we put in a quotation A. So after we finish this grade, now the indentation is under print. I'm through with the code, but all I need to do is to give the second condition. So I need to come back to under this if and use elif. Elif statement, if total is greater than or equals to 60, and the total is less than 70. Yes, it should be less than 70. Then we have print. Grade is B. Now, we move to the third one. Elif total is greater than or equals to 50, and total is less than 50. We put this column again, and we have print. Print grade is C. So we have another command that says, okay, elif is greater than or equals to 40, and total is less than 50. Is greater than or equals to, let's say, 55. Then we have print grade. Grade is D. Now, we now have elif total is greater than or equals to 40, and total is less than 45. Print grade is E. Now, else, because we have only other options, the else statement will be used at this point, and I will print my grade, which is F. So if we run this code, we should expect that the result will give us grade A for this particular student. So let's run this line of code. Okay, do I need to do that? So I think what? Okay, let me check if my this thing is working fine. Let's say A is 4, 5, and print A. I want to know why I'm not having some results. Okay, let me try and restart and clear out my this thing. Seems my Jupyter is not working properly. So I think my Jupyter is not working fine. So let me log out. You can log out, and I will start all over again. Yes, I will start all over again. I will start all over again. Hmm. So let me start all over again, which is Anaconda prompt. Jupyter notebook. So let me go back to my computer. So let me try and run this line of code. Did it run? Right, check that. Okay, so I think we are fine now. Okay, so let me paste this code again. So sorry for that. Let me just quickly write that particular code again. Let's say exam is equals to 70. Let me print my exam and see the result. Okay, so my total is equals to test plus exam. So if statement total is greater than or equals to 70 and total is less than 100. Print. So, and we'll be using this print grade A. So if my grade is 60 and less than 70, so I would have print grade B, should be ELIF. So I have ELIF here. So let me write another one of code. So if my grade is 50 and less than 60, I have grade C. I have grade C. So if my code is between 45 and less than 50, I have grade D. If my code is between 40 and 45, I have grade E. Grade E. Now, else will be print grade F. So, yes, so this is the code for multiple if statements. We have test to be 20, exam to be 70, that is 90. So we expect the result to fall between this particular condition. Total should be greater than 70 and less than 100. So if we change these values of our test to 10, what do we get? That is grade F. That is F statement. So this particular code, it works now. So we can rewrite this particular code by saying that, okay, allow the user to supply the test and allow the user to supply the exam. So let's look at that. We can say the test is equals to EVA, that is, it will convert string to numeric, that is, enter the test score. This test score. Let's just look at what will happen with this. So if you run this particular line of code, so we have a test to be 34. Let's assume that. So if I run this particular code and I supply 34 and I enter, then I can ask what is the type using the statement yesterday of this test. We can see that it is integer because I supply 34. Now, if I actually supply a float, which is 35.5, and I want to check what is the type, we still have float. So this statement, EVAL, that is ever, allows us to convert string to numeric. So now that we are done with that, I can use the same approach for the exam by copying and paste the code and say, okay, give me the exam score. So here is the exam score. The rest of this code, total and if statement, can then comes into this play by copying these particular lines of code and putting it here. So if you run this line of code, now you can say, okay, let's run it. Enter the test, let's say 20. Enter the exam, let's say 30. That will give us 50. So our grade is C. So you can go on that there are some certain conditions when you will have a if statement inside your if statement by saying that, okay, our test, in this case, let's rerun this code. In this case, I can supply a test to be 50, which is not supposed to be. And I can supply my exam score to be 10. Yes, that could be. But my test cannot be more than 50. My test cannot be more than 50. Cannot be more than 50. So for us to be able to bypass this, we can also rewrite this code again by saying that, okay, when I supply my test, for example, check the condition that if test is less than or equals to 30, then allow the user to supply the exam score, which is exam. Allow the user to supply the exam score. If not, which is the else statement, you can print, just print invalid test score, invalid test score. This is, you have sorted out the issue of if statement for the test. You can come back and say, okay, this exam score that you want to supply here, you can say, okay, this exam score must not be more than 70 marks. So you can check again by saying, okay, if exam score is less than or equals to 70, then carry out this total. Then that is when you can carry out this specific total, which is this. So, which is this particular set of code here. Indentation. So I decided to use indent here because all these statements are block of code that needs to be executed under this particular if statement. So if the test, if our exam, which is the else statement now, which we now say, okay, my else statement is else. If this exam is greater than 70, then print invalid exam score, invalid exam score. So let's test this code. Now, if you run this code and I supply 40 as my test and I enter, it will tell us invalid test score. Now, if I rerun this code again and I supply my test to be 20, it will ask me for exam. If my exam is 80, what will happen? It will flag invalid exam score. But if I run this same code and I supply my test to be 25, which is valid, I supply my exam to be 20, good, I have my grade D. So we can have if statement inside another if statement. So now we are moving to iterations. Iterations allows us to be able to repeat our code for many users.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
So before we leave the exam score,
yes, sir.
In a situation whereby you don't know the end of you have your final score to be n, so it can be any value. Can this yes? Can this statement work also?
I didn't get your question properly.
For example, my n,
yes,
let's say, is to infinity.
Okay, to infinity. So if
does
your
it work
test can be infinity, right?
Which of the n? Is it the test?
Is it the test or
exam?
No,
let's say exam.
Okay. So if my exam can be any value, then there is no need for this if statement. Because your value can be more than 70. So there is no need. So what you will have, let me just copy this code. I think what you will have will be something like this. It will be something like this. That means if your exam can take any value, I will not have if statements, and I will not have this particular statement. And all I will have is if this is this, if this is this. And another problem we are going to have is that our exam and total, if you run this particular line of code, it will not run because there is indentation here, there's another indentation here. So this exam will fall under this particular indentation. So with this, you can supply any value. So let's run this code. I can say I have 20 and I have 750 for my exam. So definitely, which is telling me that it is F. That's another error we need to capture. Why is it telling me that it's F? Now, good, because the value of our total score is 770, which has not been captured in this place at all. So for me to be able to undo this particular case scenario, all I need to do is to remove this and statement that my total is less than 100. So if my total is more than 70, so let's look at the code. We have 20 and we have 750. So we are going to definitely have A, for example. So let me rerun this particular cell code, 20, and we have 750. So my grade is A. So I believe this has actually answered your question.
Yes.
Okay. So what is an iteration? So we have an iteration that allows us to loop over our code. For instance, this particular code is for only one student. We can have it for 50 students, 100 students, 1 million students. So for example, you want to print 5 numbers and you just say, okay, I want to print 5 numbers. Instead of you to write print, for example, print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, and print 5. Print 5, which we are the one typing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So loop statement can allow us to just write a simple code that can print all these things for us. So for us to be able to generate a range of a number in Python, there is a command called range. Range of a number which is being presented in form of a list. So let's say I want to generate 5 numbers. In this case, we have 5 numbers. So let's look at the syntax before we move on for that. So the first one we are going to use is while loop statement. While loop statement is that while a condition is being fulfilled, perform a set of code. Let's say, for example, now in this case, our I, let's call my count. Let me use the word count. My count should start from 1. So my count is 1. So why statement, why my count is less than 5, because that is what I want. I want to print 5 numbers. Why my count is less than 5? Put column. This column will be there. Print count. So if I run this code can never stop because I need to attach a condition to it. And the condition is that my count should be added by 1 after I finish first print. So once my count is 1 here, so after printing 1, it will add 1 to my count. That makes it 2. It will check this condition. Is count less than 5? If count is less than 5, it will run the iteration again and so on. So let's check this line of code. So this is it. My count is, why count is less than 5? So why count is less than 5, which is 4, it will stop. But what I want is count should also account for 5. So what I need to do is to put equality sign here by saying, okay, run this line of code for me. So we have count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So instead of me to be having print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, you can actually use the word count. Then why statement? Count, why this count is less than or equals to 5? Print count, and count plus equals to 1. We have looked at this code yesterday, which is part of the assignment operator we considered yesterday. So let's consider that I have 3 students in class that I need to supply their test score and exam score. So I'm going to copy this particular line of code, and I will use if statement, this while statement for it. So let's say count of students is equals to 1. Why count is less than or equals to 3? Because I said I have 3 students in class. Perform this set of codes. So this set of codes, I need to move it because of the indentation. We should be very careful of the indentation. So let me just do the indentation. Fine. So why this? Collect my test score. If my test score is less than 30, then perform this else. So after I finish this, the condition of count supposed to come in, which will fall under this test. Observe this test. This is my test. So my count is plus or equals to 1. So let's move on and let's check what we will get. We said we have 3 students. So now this is telling me indentation error. Why is it then telling me indentation error? Because I have my test here. It shouldn't be. This my test, this if statement is supposed to come underneath this particular underneath this test. That is why I have indentation error. So if this is less than 30, else print this. So my if statement for test score should come under this if statement, here. So I think we are good to go. Now, if exam is less than indentation error also. So when writing code, you must definitely have errors. So why do I have this indentation error? I have my exam to be here. My if statement is supposed to fall underneath the exam score. Then if it is less than this, then I can have this kind of statement. So my exam X supposed to come underneath this if of exam. So let's run this particular line. So good, we are good to go. So if I supply, if the first student got 20 in the test and he scored 10 in exam, his grade is F. Now we have another test coming up for the second student. Then that for the second student, he can maybe score 15 in test and he scored 35 in exam. So that one scores C. Now for the third person, maybe he scored 0 in test and he scored 5 in exam. So it got F. So this is basically for 3 students using while loop statement. So another way to also perform iteration method is by using for statement. For statement is this. Let me just give you the syntax. The syntax is for variable in sequence, which we have colon there, then we have a set of code. So let's look at how we can do it. So I want to generate a number, range from 1 to 10. The best way to do it is to use the word range in Python, 1 to 10. But if I run this line of code, I can't see anything. But the system has actually generated a range of numbers from 1 to 10 for me. So how can I use for loop statement to view this range of 10 numbers? So generate a range of values between 1 to 9 and print on a single line. So this, you use a for loop statement for count in range 1 to 10. That is for loop statement with your condition. Print. Let me write this. Print count. So if I use the word print count, let me run the code and let's see what will happen. So this actually prints 1 to 9. So in Python, your variable starts from 1 and it ends with 0. It starts from 0 and end with that particular number minus 1. For example, let me just use a range of 10. Don't let me specify why. Let me rewrite this code. Now, your count starts from 0 in Python. In R, it starts from 1. So your first index in Python is 0, followed by 1. So automatically 10 numbers have been generated because 0 is also a number. So we need to put that in mind anytime we are working with Python, that our values is, if we want to generate 10 numbers, that means it will generate 9 minus 1, which because it starts from 0. So that is for that. Now, for us to generate 1 to 11, for us to generate 1 to 11, that means 1 to 10. 1 to 10 number, I will start from 1 and I will use 11. So by the time I specify 1 to 11, this will generate, it will start from 1 and stop at 10. So let's run that. So this is 1 and stop at 10. Now also, you can print this code on a single line of code. And how can you print it on a single line of code? All you need to put is to put end, comma, and put quotation. Then if you run this code, it will put it on a single line. So instead of it to arrange it in this way, you will have it on a single line, 0, 1, 2 to 9. So also, you can have step. That means you want a system, you want your program to jump a particular number. You can have that particular line of code. Let's assume we want to generate 1 to 100. and I want the computer to produce the fifth number after the first one. The fifth number after the first one. So all I need to put is to put the step 5. Step 5, we now print the first number. Let's look at it. So now let me put end and put my quotation here. Now, if I run this, you can see that, okay, let me put that in quotes, in space. Now, after the first number, the next number is 6. Why do we have 6? Because of this 5. This 5 is the increment. It loops over the fifth number. So this is how to write the for loop statement. But also, we can write the same exam score. This is the same exam score for 3 students. Let me say for 3 students. Yes, using for loop for statement, using for loop statement. How can we do that? Just use the word, start with the word for. I in range, as I've said, range 3. So if that is case, put your colon and you have your indentation here. So let me if I run this set of code, there will be an error because of indentation. So with this, I think it will run perfectly. So let's run this line of code. Good. For the first student, it will ask me the test score is 10 and the second one is 10. So the person score F. Let's say my test score is 30 and my exam score is 80. Let's look at that. It tells me A. Let's say my test score is 5 and my exam is 5. What do we? So after the third person, the code stops. So this is why we use loop statement. And you may be wondering that if you add 80 plus 30 together, why that is 110, which is more than 100, which give me A. Yes, the reason is because the code here is just telling me that my if statement, that my total should be greater than 70. I didn't factor in the fact that it should be less than 100. So that is why we have that. So having looked at for loop statement, for that, we can move to string statement. And one of the best way we started yesterday is by saying the hello word. Let me use the word hello word. So for you to use any string variable, you need to put them in quotation. So if you run this, you will find the word hello word. Another way to put it is to use the word print statement. A print statement where you now have in quotation hello word. We have this particular set of code. So, and we can check. We can assign this thing to a variable. Let's call it x. X is equals to this. And if we run this particular line of code, we can print x. Let me print x. I can print my x. As yesterday, we can check the type of x. What is this x? It's all about. This x is telling us that is a string. Okay, I made a mistake here. It says name TYPR is not defined. That means I made a mistake, which is the typing error. I'm supposed to use type. So now it's telling me that it's a string variable. So we can check some manipulations. We can check some things about what is the total length of this word, hello word. What is the total length? So we can check it using the length len function, which is len x. So it's telling us that we have 12. So if you count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this 12 contain the space. This space is a character in a string. So this particular len counts this space. That is why we have 12 instead of 11. So there is something called concatenation in string. So concatenation is about adding 2 string numbers together. Adding 2 string numbers together. Let me give you an example. The example I stated yesterday is that let me use the word A is determined. Yes. And another name is analytics. Analytics. So now, what is the meaning of this concatenation by adding 2 numbers together? Let's check it out. A plus B. What do we get? Now, let me run this line of code. Now, it's telling me that the name A is not defined. Why is it not defined? I have not actually run this line of code here. So let me run it. Now, I have run it. Then I have run it. So we have this data mind. Is there any question, sir?
Go ahead.
So now, data mind. This is not the way it also displays because it has added data mind and analytics together. So the best way to bypass this is by doing it this way. You can put a space in front of A and use the word A plus B, A plus B. Then we add this. So we can see the space here, data mind analytics. We can run the same code again by putting a space in front of A, and we said A plus B, and we run this particular line of code again. But another way we can do it is by saying that okay, I want you to print, let me use the word print A, and I put comma, I put a space in between that, and I put another comma, and I put B. So if we run this, we can see another space. This particular space generates this space, but we are talking about concatenation, which add the two numbers together. Another way we can also do this is by saying that, okay, let me make my C, let me make my B to be that, and let me create another value called C, and that C will be a space. So I can now say A plus C plus B. We now say, okay, equals to this. So this C is the space we have embedded in that. So another thing you can do is to repeat your string values. For example, our A is data mind. I can say A times 3. Let me use that. Data mind, data mind, data mind, which it has added by 3. So the best way to do this, to overcome this, is I can come and say, okay, let me use this particular code and put a space after my D. Let me run this. And if I multiply it 3 times, we can see data mind, data mind, data mind, repeated 3 times. So we have indexing in string. So indexing allows us, let me use that word, indexing allows us to be able to pick out some from values or some to select some single characters from a string variable. And let's take, for example, in the case of data mind, which is this, I want to pick out the letter T. So, and the first thing I need to know is what is the length of A? What is the length of A? The length of A is 9. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, with this space, 9. Now, let me now say that I want to extract this T. So for me to extract this T, I have told you, Python starts from 0. So if my D is 0, my A is 1, then my T is 2. So if I type A, for me to now find that particular thing, I will use a square bracket. I will type T. I will type 2. So if I type A, square bracket 2, I should have my T. So this is what is called indexing. This indexing allows us to refer to a particular character in a particular string. And also we have slicing. This slicing is what we can get multiple sentences from slicing. That means this is a process of selecting a subsection from a string. So let's take, for example, at times, if we forget our password on Gmail address, and Gmail wants us to verify our account, for example, and my account is, maybe I have registered my phone number. My phone number is this, is 080, let's say 6220-9978. This is my phone number. At times, let me use Markdown here so that I can explain further better. Now, you will see that at times, Google will ask you that, Google will just say that, supply the last 4-digit number. And what Google will tell you is that Google will just supply is 080 6220, it will now put that star. So this particular star is what you are being asked to supply to confirm your phone number. So let's look at it, how we can do that, how we can get that particular slicing, to get the slicing out. Now, the slicing is that I need the last 4 digits of my number. I need the last 4 digits of my number. And how can I do that? That is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can say that I want to get, now there will be an error here, but let me leave this like this. Now, how many number is this? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11, it will start from 0. Is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my last number will start from 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's pick that up. So 7, then I will put colon 10. And let's see what we will get. Good. It provides me with the last 3-digit number. So for me to have the last 4-digit number, for me to get my last 4-digit number, I will just need to supply it to 11. So this particular allows us to slice between a variable. It allows us to slice to get some portion from our string variable. For example, let's look at B. B says analytics. So what I am interested is, let me use the word, I want Python to give me all these values except C and X. So for me to do that, I can say, okay, Python, I will give it colon -2. -2 is that start from the beginning and omit the last 2 numbers. So let's look at this particular set of line of code. Now, this is what I'm saying now. I'm telling Python to omit the last 2, and the last 2 is C and X. So when we look at it, we have analytics. So it has omitted the last 2-digit number. Also, we can use step. We can use step to produce a number. Let's say I want Python to give me between step 2, from the 2nd to the 10th, and give me the 2, taking 2 steps. That means if I am to start, I want Python to start from this A. This is 0, 1. To start from this A, jump the L, go to Y, and so let's look at this line of code. Now, this is what I have. Because I tell the system that, okay, start from these 2. This 2 is my A. It will omit this L because I use 2. That means it will be jumping. It will be taking a step after, which is the L, which is the Y. After Y, instead of the system to give me T, it will not give me T. It will go to I. Instead of system to give me I, it will go to X. And that is slicing. Slicing is the way of actually getting some part of a string variables. Also, there are some methods in Python that allows us to have this to perform some analysis. Some of us, when we want to type our Gmail, you will observe that some of us will type a capital letter. The system will accept it. If we type it in small letter, it will still accept it. So the best way to capitalize the first number is by using the word capitalize, which we have that particular method. So by the time you have that, yes, so let me run this again. Then it has turned this determined, this D, it has become a capital letter. So now let me now say that I want B to be in capital letter. So we have B dot capitalize. So in this place, our A will be in capital letter. So for the upper one, if you want all these determined to be in capital letter, all you need to do is to say, okay, A dot upper. Then you put it in bracket. You have that, all of them determined in capital letter, written in capital letter. You can do the same for B, which is upper, and you stop the end with your quotation. So, and that is it. So at times, let me just give another example, which I want to use slower. Let me use the word capital letter Nigeria, which is our country. Let me use A1 as Nigeria, our country. Now, if I want this A1 it will be displayed. Let's look at the way it is displayed. Now it's telling me error because A1 has not been defined. Yesterday I told you that our Python is case sensitive. So let me rewrite that. So this is A. So if I type A1 dot lower and I put it in brackets, I will have Nigeria rating in small letter. Now let's look at this strip button. This strip word allows us to strip out this space, this last space in our sentence. The sentence here is, I am in love with Python. So if I am in love with Python, let me use that. Let me run this particular code. I am in love with Python. So for me to be able to use stripe to delete this space, the last space in this sentence, all I need to do is to say, okay, A1 strip, and we enter. So we can see that this space has been removed. It's not only space we can remove some other things. We can remove some things in our data. This is how to remove some things in our unwanted stuff in our data. Let me give another example. B. Let me use this. Maybe I want to strip the comma. This comma, I want to strip this comma at the end of my word. So I can strip it by using comma. So sorry, let me put it in parentheses, then strip this comma. So we can see that at times we can have some data that we have comma, separated commas and all the rest. So for us to be able to remove that, we use the strip command. So .strip allows us to remove some unwanted words from our command. So we have another one called title. A title, it means it will capitalize each word, the beginning of each word. So that's why we have capital letter A, capital letter I, capital letter L. At the same time, we can split this word. Splitting it can be I as a word, AM as a word, in as a word, and all the rest. So if we use split, which we have here, now you can see it that the system, the Python has split it into different words, and these words are being placed in parentheses. Is a list. This is a list statement which we are going to look and as we move on in this study. So at times, let me just use the word. Let me write this particular. Let me rewrite this here. Let me remove a N here. Now we can have a sentence like this, escape sentence, and I want this sentence to be on another line. That is where the \n comes in. So by the time I use \n, that means this escape will be on a line, the sequence will be on another line. This creates a sentence on another line precisely. So this T is a tab. In tab, it brings it just like our normal tab on our keyboard. So it creates a space in between it. So a space in between it. So that is that. And this also, it creates a space, but not a tab. You can see that the space within here is far more than the space within here. So this is a normal space. It allows us to put a space within sentences. And when we talk about string formatting, that means, for example, we want to write a sentence like which will contain my name and my age. And this sentence, we want it to not display anybody's name. So this can be anybody's name. So that is why we use the word .format. So .format allows us to do this, and we can reference this using a reference name or using an ID, which is using a ID. For example, I want to write my name is, you can see my name in quotation. My name is, I put it in quotation, this curly bracket, F name. This F name is what we have here as John. So I am age. That is my age, which is being displayed here. So if I run this code, what you will see is my name is John. I am 36. You can change this John to anything. Let's call it Yinka, for example. And if I run this line of code, it will change it. My name is Yinka, and I use reference name for this particular string formatting. If you don't want that, you can use index to reference that. For example, I say print my name is square bracket 0 and I am square bracket 1. This 0 stands for John, 1 stands for the age, as we can see, dot format after this string, dot format. So when I run that, I have my name is John, I am 36. I can change John to be Bomi, for example, and I will run the code, and running the code still gives me the same thing, my name. This is actually, we use this basically when we create an account with a, let me say, a new platform where they want to display our username and password also. So now another way to write it is, I can say my A is 5, my B is 10, and I use F string to calculate this. So I will just say 5, which is 5 plus 10 is A plus B. This particular curly bracket performs A plus B, which is 5 plus 10, 15, and not 30, not 2 times A plus B, which is this. So this particular formatting can be used anyhow, and you can use it in your data analysis stuff also. Another example is maybe you just put an account and your username is, for example, Adestista, and your password is 1, and you want to tell them, okay, welcome, Adestista, your password is this. So this particular string formatting allows us to work through that. So another thing we need to talk on as a data analysis, sequences. Under the sequence, we have list and we have tuple. So list, let me just go back to the, now, under sequences, we have list. So list is the most versatile data types available in Python. So a list contains a collection of objects. So when we talk about objects, it can be a list of fruits, list of names of people. It can be list of country. And for us to be able to declare, to define the list, what we use to define the list is a square bracket like this. Once you use this square bracket, you are telling Python that you want to create a list. So this first one is a list, an empty list. This one is another list of numbers. This is a list of variables, and a list can contain numbers, it can contain anything. So if we run this, for example, let me check the type using the type command. This command is telling us that it is list, but it's a list of empty space. So let me look at that. So list lst-0. By the time you run this line of code, you will see that it's an empty list. So we have this for the second one, which is the list 1. It tells us that it's still the same list, but let's check the kind of data we have in it. So that is 1, 2, 3, 5. So we have another list, which is the third one, and we can create a list from our variable. Let's say variable is A is equals to 3, B is equals to Segun, and C is equals to 4. We can create a list from it by separating it with comma. So for each variable, they must be separated with comma. So it's also a list, and by the time you check what is inside the list, you can see a variable. And so you can access this list. For example, let me say the way we have worked about it the other time, list underscore 4 is 0. It will only supply 3, which is the first value. So if I say that list underscore 4 1, we will have Segun. So that is how to access your list. Underscore 4, which is 2. Let's say we have 4.5. Let's assume that I have another list and I call it 3. Let's look at what the system will tell us. Is an error because there is no range. There is nothing like we only have three variables, 3 values in the list. Now, part of our assignment we need to do is to create a list of fruits. So we have different fruits like orange, mango, and all the rest. You can create a list for it. That's your assignment. You can create a list for float numbers. We talked about float yesterday, which are values with decimal point. You can create a list of cars. We have different kind of cars, like Mercedes, Toyota, and all the rest. So that is an assignment for you to look into. Now, we can also have a list in a list. For example, I said a list can be created using square brackets. Now, this is a Tolu. Look at this particular parameter here. It is a list. This particular value I've highlighted is a list inside a list Y1. So this is a list inside a list, and we call it a nested list. And yesterday we talked about this hash. Hash is used for comment. So that is that. Let's look at the type of this Y1. So I can access my list, as I've said. So accessing my list of this one, list inside list is this. So it brings out this list 35.7. I can access the list inside a list by using this Y1 also, which is 1. Also, I want to access 5.7. So for me to access 5.7, I will use another one. So it is accessing list inside a list. So that is how to access a list inside a list. For another example is I deliberately put 2 square brackets here. So when I run it, it's still a list. Now, if I look at state and I run this code, it's a list inside a list of states in Nigeria. So the last time we talked about creating a range of 1 to 11, but I can't access the range when we are talking about for loop statements. So that is what I have stated here. Best way to access a list is to convert that A to list. We talked about conversion yesterday. So by the time you convert it to a list, you have your result 1 to 10. So this list of the range, as we have discussed, starting from 1 and end from 10, is a list by converting this range into a list object. So we can check the length of our list. For example, my length A is 1 to 11 is 10. The list of a state is 1. Why is it 1? Because it's a list inside a list. Because we have a list, this list inside another list. That is why it is regarded as a 1. So when we run this, we have 3. So when we look at that Y1, we have 3 objects, which is Tolu. This is the second list, and the truth is the third list. We can check the length of the list, basically. And we can slice and index a list. For example, this is a collection of a word. Collection of words. These are the words in my list. Let me run this particular collection. So for me to index each and all these observations, I can use the word with their index. The index can be captured by saying collection square bracket 0. So for you to access that, you use square bracket 0. That is 24.1. For the 1, it is 4. 42, it is word. For we see this word ever. This ever is a language, is a reserved word in Python. That is why they call it. It's an inbuilt function in Python. So that is how to actually refer to a list, indexing your list. And also we can use, I want to print it one after the other. You can print your list. So this is printing it. And the last time we talked about for loop statements, 4 statements, which we have talked about in today's class. I use for I in range. So of length. So the length of my collection. You should find the length of my collection, then create a range for it, then loop over it. So let's look at what we get. So you can see that it brings them out one after the other. We can use for item in collection, print item. That means each of these words in that particular list is an item. So we can use another loop statement. Another way I have done that is by using a loop statement. I say let my I be equals to 1. Why I is less than length of the collection. Print collection. Let me use less than or equals to collection. Print the collection. Then we have that. By the time you run this, so we have it. That means we are out of the range. So the best way is to remove the equality sign and run the code. So we have all the Python, all the values in the list. So as I've said again, we can have a list inside the list. This is a list inside the list. This is another list. This is another list. So this list can be indexed with 0. This list can be indexed with 1. This one can be indexed with 2. So that is why I want to access the name Titi from the list. So number one, I want to access the name Titi. Let's look at that. So the reason why it's flagging is because I have not run this particular line of code. So I've run it now. Then let me have, so this is Titi. I'm saying that from my list of this first list, which is 0, give me Titi's name. So aside from that, I want my list to give me the second, from the first list, give me the second variable. This is my first list. Give me the second one, which is 21. So it's 0, 1, 2. So if I run this particular line of code, it will supply me 21. So also, I can compute the average of a list. Average. It means my list of 1, which is this. Average is for a numeric value. 0. My list 1, which is this, which is 1. My list 1, and this second one, divided by 3. I can find the average, which is 26. So there's something called mutability. Mutability is that something can change. Can a variable change? Now, let's consider something again. I said print this particular word. I have 24 for word, and I have this input value. I want this collection. I want to change the third index in these words and replace it with Ibadan. For example, I want to replace this ever word, which is the input function, and replace it with Ibadan. All I need to do is to say, okay, collection, square bracket 3. That means I want to change that particular variable in that particular stuff into Ibadan. So let's run this particular line of code. So we can see now that our collection have changed. It has changed from this input value to this Ibadan. Ibadan. So that is how to work with list. There is a list operation also. We can merge two lists together. For example, I have this list. I have second list. If we combine these two together, it will form a new list, which is 1, 4, 6, 5, 7, this one and this one. So you can merge two lists together. So this list can be a data, another data can be the second data, and this happens majorly in data science, where we first of all remove all variables that are not numeric to one side, we move the second one to another side. At the end of the day, we combine them together. So at this place, I want to add 34 to a list. What are we going to get? Boom, we have error. What is the error? Because 34 is numeric, and this one is a list. So you can only add a list to a list. Rather, you can add number to a list. So another way we can do that is that when we look at this list contains a number, it contains vector, and it contains a string variable. And 34 cannot be added to a string variable. 34 cannot be added to this. So let's look at this. I have created a list of numbers, and I want to add 3 I want to add 20 to this list. So let's look at what we get. Error. The error is because you cannot iterate over it, even though they are numeric. You can still not iterate over it. So let's look now. What I have done here is that I have converted my 20 to a list by using a square bracket. This is a square bracket here. So since 20 is now a list, I can merge it with my list 3. So let's look at that, and let's look at the result. So 20 has been added to my list because 20 is not a list. So a list can be added to a list, and a list cannot be added to a number. There is no operation that can be carried out on that. So we also use if statement, our equality sign, to check if this particular A is the same as this. I said is A equals to B. That is what you have, is this particular list equals to this list. For us to know whether it's true, I have used a conditional statement here. A equals B, which we have talked about before. So since this A is equals to B, that is why we have T true in this statement. Let's consider this particular code again. I said my C is this, and I said let my D be C. So definitely C is D. So if we are to check it, we check it, it will also give us a true statement. But now, and I said are C and D alias of themselves. So if it's C is A. Is it true? Is C A? So we can use that statement, which is true. So this is a list. And you can go ahead and create lists, and the way you can create many lists as you like. Now, we can slice a list. We have talked about slicing. Slicing is about extracting some portions out of a set of variables. Now, we have this variable list, which is this. And if I print it, I have all the set of observations. All I want to see is the first three numbers. The first three numbers. So for me to slice this list, I use a square bracket and I put 0:3, the start and the stop. So when we look at that, it will give us the first three numbers. So I want to view from 8 to 7 because 8 will not be printed. So to slice, I put my square bracket and I run this particular line. So we said start from 4. That is 0, 1, 2, 3. So my 4 starts from this and ends here. So that is slicing. So you can slice using square bracket and a colon in between your start and your stop. So you can also slice from -5 to 3. What is -5? That means from the back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want it to start from 4. That is what we have here, and stop at -3. -3 is 1, 2, 3. So I expect it to start from 40 and end in 60. So let's look at that. So that is that. We can slice from the back. You can pick a single value. So this is telling me that start, produce me with the first word, starting from the first word, and stop at the third one. So it will start from 10 and end at 30. So this will tell me that start from the fourth, from the fourth variable, and give me the rest in that particular list. So that is why we have column and nothing in front of it. This column stating that give me everything in the list. Give me everything in the list. So that is a set of observations, and that is how to slice. So there is also a list method. A list method allows us to extend our list. It allows us to append. What is append? Append means to add to the already existing list. So this list we have here is Segun, 5, true, and 3.5. So let's check our list. Now, for me to append means to add to it. I want to add 6 to the list. So that is why I use the word append to it. So by the time I use that, so we can see that it has appended it with 6. It has added it with 6. I can append it also with a state or your state. So we can see that it keeps appending it. And I can append it with a vector also. So it keeps adding to our list. So when you have a list, you want to add something to your list, you can use the word append. So we have another one called extend method, which is still the same thing. You extend it. You extend your list. It's still the same way. It works something similar to append. Let's take, for example, this is our, let me run the list again. I want to use the word list, should be Segun 5 and true. So let me add this vector to it. We can see Segun 5 and 2 with this list. We can see the new list. It has added 4J and that. Now, the difference between extend and the append is that this append, it can append and give us a new list. Now look at this. I append this list using a list. So it produced a list for me in the list. When I use extended, instead of it to produce a list, it actually extends the already existing list by adding to the list. So it does not give me a new list at all. So we need to know the difference between extend and also the extend and append. In this case, I want to append it with these two variables, 4j, 23. I guess we are going to have an error. Yes, because it is not, this 4j, 23 is not a list. So we need to make this a list before it can be extended into our list. So this is another way to extend a list. So we can see that we have extended our list. Now, we have a list. We have another method in a list called insert method. Insert method allows us to insert a variable in a particular index. Yes, in a particular index. Let's say, for example, I have a list, Kemi 24 and 3. This Kemi is indexed in Python is 0. This 24, the index is 1. This 3, the index is 2. Now, I want to insert Olu, this particular Olu, to first index. So that means we can put a particular variable in a particular location, and that is what that particular sentence is all about. Yeah. Now, let me run this code. Now, run. We can see that we have Kemi, and Olu is now the number 1, index 1. This 24 remains the same, 3 remains the same. So we can index, we can put something in a specific place. So here, I want Python to put this particular vector into the index 3. So by the time I run it, you can see it has put it in index 3. This is 0, 1, 2, and index 3. We have a pop list. Let's look at that. So pop is 3. It gives me 3 in this 3.0. But let's look at the list again. The list is Kemi, Olu, 24. This pop brings in a specific value. It's attached to a specific value. Let's look at pop 2. List pop 2, for example. So pop 2 means Kemi, Olu, and this. Because the reason why we are having pop 2 is because this pop 2 here has removed our variable 3 from the system. So this pop, it removed 3 from the list. And when we remove 3 from the list, we check it, there is no 3. Now, I told list to remove the second index in our list. The second index is 0, 1, 2, which is 24. So now that we remove index 24, the index 24 is no longer in our list. Suppose I want to remove Kemi now. I want to remove Kemi from this list. All I need to do is to say list.pop, which allows us to drop that, and index of Kemi is 0. So if I run this particular line of code, it will drop that particular Kemi and answer. So also we can reverse. Our list can be reversed. Let me go back to the list. Here, the list I have is Kemi. I have Kemi 24, 3. Now, let us look at the way the list will be displayed. LST is equal to, let me just use a list of 10, 7, 8, 7, 6, 4, for example. Now, I want it to reverse from the back, to reverse it. So it starts from 4, 6, 7, 10. So this reverse method is about producing results from the back. Also, we can sort used from our list. Let's say we have 2 lists, list this and list this. So if I use my list.sort, it will sort in ascending order. That is 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. It has sorted out this particular list in ascending order. We can sort out a string also. A string starts with A, then followed by LMN, then followed by X. So for mark, we can sort out marks. The reverse is true. So I want it to reverse this course from the back. So from the back is 72, 55, because already our number is not sorted. Let me run this again. I have a mark, and let me let me run that mark. I run max, yeah, and I have 43. So I want it to sort my mark. Let me just use the word sort, which is max dot sort. Let me use that sort, and let's look at what we have. So if I look at that and I produce my marks, I have marks. So this sorts it out from as in ascending order. So if I want it in descending order, inside this sort, I have used the word reverse. Reverse is true. That means produce the reverse is true. Let me copy this because I'm going to use first. So reverse is true is that starting from the highest to the lowest. But if I have used my reverse to be false, then it will start from the lowest to the highest. So that is how to start. That is how to use the particular point. And I think let me check. We still have a lot of things to do, but let me see if I can round up the tuple. Tuple is another way, is a sequence in Python, but they are being defined using brackets. Instead of square bracket, they use bracket like this to define a tuple. Instead of square bracket, we use a bracket to define a tuple. So here we have a tuple, which is an empty tuple. So if I type A underscore tuple, and I run that, is an empty tuple. So I have another variable stop, which produces a tuple for me, is a tuple. And when you look at this, you can see that the results are in brackets, not in square brackets. So a tuple is different from a list. A tuple can be, a list is mutable. That is, it can be edited, it can be modified. A tuples cannot be modified. So we can have different tuples. We can define a tuple for a string variables. Our tuple can consist of string and numeric. Also, we can have a tuple inside a tuple. So this is a tuple inside a tuple. Let's look at it. A tuple inside a tuple. Now, let's look at that. Tuple inside a tuple. Which is a tuple. Now, we can find the length of a tuple by using len. Len, which is a tuple. We can check the length of a tuple by using len function. This is a len function. This is a len function to check. This is telling us that we have 5, we have 4, we have this. And we can slice our tuple also. We can slice our tuple. This is a tuple we have created using a square bracket. A square bracket means 0. So now I have sliced this particular first tuple out. That is why I'm having a slice. Segun, Titi, and Tolu. I can extract Segun out from this first tuple. And that is what I have done. Tuple 0 into 0, which is Segun. You can also, from my tuple, you can extract these two. I extract this tuple out. And I can slice a tuple too using the square bracket and the colon method. So this is 0 to 1, 0 to 3. So we are talking about give me a tuple of 0 to 3, which is Segun, 5, and true that we have seen. I can say a tuple from -2 downward. -2 is 1, 2. So it will produce your state to Segun backward. So that is a way to slide. And I've said a tuple is not mutable. It's not mutable. Let's look at that. Now, error. It's not mutable because you cannot change a value in the tuple. You can't change it at all. So I tried to change the first tuple. It's telling me error. So tuple object does not support item assignment. So you can't actually change a tuple. But let's look. Can we append a tuple? You can't append a tuple. So a tuple is not mutable. It's not mutable. It can't be changed. It will only be the way it is. So you can't remove anything. You can't assign any values. But at the same time, tuple has some methods. Methods like, let's say, for example, this is a tuple. Which is index. So I can index. I can find the index of letter C. So let me look. The index of letter C is 3. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's 3. So I can find the index using of any tuple using the index command, using this dot index method. So that is a tuple. And we have set. Set is what we know. A set is a set. We know what a set is. Right from our secondary school days, we have a set. So a set can be, in the set, we represent the set with curly brackets. The same in Python. So this is a set, call. So a call is a set. So this is my call. So I can have another set which can be alphabet. So this is another alphabet which is a tuple. So I can convert a tuple to a set. Now, for me to this ALP is a tuple. So if I convert it, for me to convert this tuple to a set, I just use the word set apple. So it converts it to a set. Now, instead of having bracket, it now have a square bracket. So I can check the type of a tuple of that, which is a set now. So I can check my call. A call is now a tuple, is now a set. Now we have fruit, a set of fruit, apple, mango, orange, and all the rest. And we can have a set that contains age. So we have operations in set. Operation in set, we include length of a set. That is len age. We have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, the reason why we have 4 is that we have how many sets? Now, we need to be very careful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So sets do not allow repetition. These 23 appear twice. So set, we assume that it is 1. So that is why we have 4 in the set. So set does not allow repetition. List allow repetition. Tuple allow repetition. We can index in a set by using square brackets. Index 0 will give us that. So we can see that in set, we can't index that. We can't index that. And we can't also slice a set. We can't slice a set. It's an error. So set cannot be sliced and it can be indexed. But rather, there are some operations we can do. We can add to a set. We can add to a set. So we have added 5 to a set. And a set is always arranged in ascending order. In ascending order. A set is always so we have vector, we have numbers, then we have alphabet, arranged in alphabetical order. So we can add to a set. I want to add ayo, this ayo. So for me to add to a set, I will use .add. So this is ayo. So ayo has been added to the set, arranged with numbers, string, and Boolean forms. So we can remove in a set, a particular number, we can remove in a set. So I want to remove 23 from this list of a set. For me to remove 23, I use the word my set.remove. My set.remove, for that, I remove that. Let me look at that, 23. So we can see that 23 is here. 23 is no longer here. And some operations we can do with a set include union, intersection, and complement. So I have a first set, second set. So if I say first set dot union with second set, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is why we have a union. You always know that you can perform a union with a set. Also, another way to carry out a union is using this symbol. So we can find a difference between two sets. First set dot differences with the second one. That means what is in first set that is not in the second set. 4, 5, 6 in the first set, 4, 5, 6 in the second set, but 1, 2, 3 is not there. We can do the same for second set minus. So we can use minus. Second set minus first set. So we can use first set minus second set. See the same thing. Instead of also use dot differences, we can find the interaction. And we can find the interaction between a set, first set dot interaction of the second one. And interaction means what is in first set and what is in the second set. And another way to perform this interaction is by using the operand, this particular operand sign to perform a interaction. And we have the same value. So for this class, we are going to stop here today because from dictionary we will go into Python, into pandas. From pandas, we now go into data frame, where we can see how we can import data, where we can see how we can analyze, do visualizations. And at that point, next class, I'm going to talk about dictionary, and I'm going to talk about pandas on Saturday. And the same Saturday, Ms. Dr. Ogunsanya will take us through pandas, importation of pandas and visualizations next week, Saturday. And on Sunday, we are still going to do some data analysis using Panda. So for this class today, we are going to stop at set. We are going to stop at this set tonight. Thank you very much. Dr. Okay, please, over to you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your indulgence. Thank you, everyone. Do we have any question, please? If you have questions, if you have contribution, you have addition or subtraction, please can you raise up your hands? If a particular thing is not clear to you, at the end of this class, you will have the recording, you will see it there on the platform. Please, can someone just share with us, Ekun, if it's possible for you to share the WhatsApp link on the chat, or the Ogunsanya, are you still there? Please kindly share the link for the WhatsApp so that people that still want to join, so that you can have access to the recording. Thank you so much. If you don't have any question, please, can we just thank our facilitator for today, Dr. Adegoke. Yes, we can see. Thank you, Dr. Adeshina. We can also, if you are not on the WhatsApp link, you can click on that and join the WhatsApp link. So from there, we can also have access to other the previous classes we had. So let's try as much as possible to do that. So if you don't have any other question and any other contribution, would like to draw the. Oh, okay. Let's ask Ogunsanya, are you there? Okay, are you there, sir? Okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Adegoke, for.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. You can see the link. Victoria is asking, I can't see the link. The link is there on the chat. Dr. Adeshina, please help us share it again. So the link is there on the chat. Yes, here's the link.
Totunde, we salute you.